Welcome to another episode of Get Paid for Your Pad. Today I am joined by Jason Sterner. He's the CEO of Southern Homestay, and he manages over 30 units in Georgia and Florida. And today we are going to talk about Airbnb account management. Jason, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks, Jasper.
Tell us a little bit about your business before we dive into this topic.
Yeah, so we started our business in November 2017, and really was we got into real estate for about a year, other real estate dealings, and really only have been doing short-term rentals in our business about 4 of those 5 years. But we started out by renting out our own property because I had to go back home to visit my parents, and I convinced my wife, hey, this should be a good idea. And so we listed our property on Airbnb, and in 24 hours, we got 9 of the 10 days booked to go home. And so we were convinced this is a pretty interesting model. Maybe we ought to continue it. So after that, we had started networking around the Atlanta area and joined some real estate clubs and just started making connections around the area, and slowly started just asking people questions about their own real estate business. What kind of pain points were they having? What bottlenecks were they having? And slowly we could solve a lot of long-term rental issues by helping them make more money in the short-term industry, and they were doing less. So it was a win-win for both of us. And so fast forward to today, and we have, I think, 32 rentals right now. We have another 6 in the queue, and about $22 million of property by the end of the summer.
Wow! So the homes that you manage, they're pretty expensive.
Yeah, so we our guest avatar is bigger families. So we do all single family residents. We have maybe 2 townhouses, but most of them will sleep anywhere from 6 to 8 people up to 15, 17. Actually, the largest one we have in the portfolio is 21 right
now. Oh, wow. That's a big house.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, let's talk a little bit about the account management. And just to give some background to the listeners, something that a lot of hosts struggle with as they're adding more listings to the portfolio is, do we keep everything in one Airbnb account, so all the listings in one account, or are we going to create like a separate Airbnb account for each listing that we're adding, or are we going for like a hybrid where, for example, you add like an Airbnb account for each like 5 listings or something? So one Airbnb account 5. So if you're up to like 25, you would have 5 Airbnb accounts, right? That's an important decision that you have to make. And Jason, you've chosen to create a new account for each listing, correct?
Yeah. So we kind of, in our whole portfolio, we have 14 Airbnb accounts currently. So we kind of take it per investor and per situation, if you will. So I'll kind of walk you through the timeline of what we've done there. So we started out kind of with the methodology of, and if I didn't mention it, all of the homes that we manage, we're solely property management at this point. We are looking to actively buy in the marketplace and take on the ownership model, but we don't do any rental arbitrage. It's all management at this point. So when we started the business, kind of one of our ins with investors was, hey, you will have an asset. If you decide to sell this property someday, you will have a standalone asset that you can then go ahead and sell it and market it and still have an Airbnb account that will have great reviews, and you'll be able to pass that on to the next homeowner. At the time, we had a bunch of people that had a bunch of homes in their portfolio, and they really loved that idea because some of them were looking to try it out, but they may wanted to grow it and appreciate it and then sell it. And so we thought, well, this was a good idea. It won't be attached to us. We won't have any conflicts with them at the end. It'll be a seamless situation. So we did that for like the first maybe 10 homes. And then a couple of things we were running into. Well, as we were gaining other homes, we weren't renting our own home a lot. And so what happened is we had our superhost status on our own account was dropping because we didn't have enough stays. And so we were making everybody else look like all stars, but we were doing all the work and it wasn't on our account. And so we decided, hey, we're going to start putting most of these homes when it seems relevant. And we changed it in our hosting agreement that we have with all of our investors that, hey, we put it in our portfolio. We're going to collect all of the cash flow, which was a great move for us because the cash flow in terms of being able to, get loans and mortgages and other things for homes in the future, they just look at, that cash flow position. So if your model is to grow a business, even in property management, and you get to a point where you want to be able to do that in terms of showing cash flow and all of those other things, I recommend, having one account that you can grow. And that has really that has helped us to really streamline our own business processes as we continue to grow. Now, if it's somebody that says, I'm going to buy a house and I might only have 4 or 5, and they're in different unique positions that I might want to sell them, the market in the last 2 years, what we have seen is those Airbnb accounts or VRBO accounts have become a real asset to selling and proof of this really performs as a short-term rental. And so if that's the mindset going into the purchase of a house, or that's the mindset for the investor you're working with, it is good to have it separately. So for instance, we don't really do separate accounts anymore. At least we've kind of taken on the position that we're going to put maybe 15 or 20 into an account so that we're not vulnerable with everything in one account, but we're also not managing, every single account by itself. But one, for instance, that we went back, kind of reverted back to an individual account. We joined up with our largest house that we do now that sleeps 21. It's a 7-bedroom, 7.5 bath farmhouse. And the investor has not only that house, but they have 2 other homes on their ranch. So they eventually want all 3 homes to be Airbnbs, and they already have a recognizable brand in the area. So we agreed with them that we would start it up, we'll manage it. As we add other homes, we're going to also add those to their portfolio. And so if they ever someday decide to sell that asset or that farm, it will be a huge asset to them, rather than trying to accumulate all of these reviews and everything else and create them turmoil, down the road, and they'd have to start all over, and it really wouldn't be a huge asset to them.
Interesting. So are the homes that you manage, are they mostly owned by investors?
They are. Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, they're mostly investor owned.
Yeah. So that makes sense. So just to kind of summarize, so you got a different Airbnb account for most of your homes. So that's part of your pitch, I guess, right? To the investors is saying like, hey, we'll build up your Airbnb account, and then you have a very competitive, like, sellable asset.
Yes. Yeah. And, it kind of goes back to one of our core values as a company is relationships over revenue. So we do that strictly because we want long-term relationships. Almost every home we have in our portfolio has come by word of mouth. We don't do any advertising. And so that has been huge in lifting the foundation of our company and building our rapport in the community, in the local area. And we even, have turned away homes that are too far, or they just aren't a win. We've done, an Airbnb report, just like in Legends X, that we've gone through with you guys, and love the idea of, just giving a financial report, a projected financial report to an investor so they can make the best decision on some houses. We've had some investors that they don't buy houses because they take our advice on, hey, this isn't a good one, but take that money and deploy it somewhere else, and let's look at another house and put them in a position where we both are making, a good return on our investment.
Sure.
Yep.
Let's dive in a little bit more of like the the management of all these multiple accounts. So when you start working with a new owner, you create that Airbnb account, you are in control of it, right? You collect the cash flow and everything.
Correct. Yep.
And then
Yeah. So, and
what's a
go ahead.
yeah, I'm curious, like, because you have your brands, right? Southern Homestay.
Yep.
So what's the name on the account?
Yeah. So we will set up each now. As of right now, we are setting them all up under our portfolio. Basically, having our it's a picture of my wife and I because we both own the business, and it speaks to who we are as a family, but then who we are as a company. So we kind of speak to both of those because we feel like when we want to stay at an Airbnb, we don't like staying with big corporations or big companies. And there's a lot out there, and we've not had good experiences with them. For the most part, we love the personal touch of people, even if we don't meet them, but we love the warmth and the Jasper, you even talked about this in Legends X about having a good picture, right? And a smiling face and not just your criminal look, of what it looks like. So I want to be personable. I want them to feel like even if we have a lot of homes in a portfolio, they still get that family touch because that is our guest avatar, is kind of serving families and serving multi-generational families. So I want them to feel that from us all the way through.
So do you have that same picture on all the different accounts?
Yeah, so the accounts that we had started individually on those, we have the investor account as kind of the admin person, and then we are the co-host, but we are the person that they see, as the preferred messenger, as the preferred person on the account. Even if we have somebody else that's messaging on our team for us, they're messaging kind of through that account. And so all of those, I guess it would probably be 11 of those accounts or 12 of those accounts are individual. And so each of them would have the owner's information. We set up a separate Google Gmail account for all of the emails to dump into so that they have access to that, so they can see it, look at it. So it's autonomous, it's set up, it's almost kitted for them to give away if they want to. And so everything is all about them except the pertinent information. So the contact information is our company contact information. It doesn't go to the investor. The profile picture or the person they're messaging is us. And everything is directed to us. So they are basically autonomous. They don't ever get email, calls, texts, whatever else.
So if I were to look at any of those accounts, it would say in the about section, it would say, "Hi, I'm Jason," and the name of your wife.
Yeah, Summer. Yeah.
Yeah. So all those accounts would be like Jason, and Summer would have the information of your company, but on the back end, they're all under different names.
Correct. Yep.
Awesome. Yeah. Okay. That's a really interesting system. And then your main account, you're adding yourself as a co-host on all of those accounts so
Correct.
that you can control those accounts and do all the messaging and whatnot.
Yep. Yeah. The other hidden benefit, if you're going to go that route and that method, is, Airbnb rewards you for, suggesting somebody else to sign up an account. And so early on, we literally would make thousands of dollars a year in just referral fees from Airbnb by referring. We're doing all the work internally, but referring a host or another investor, they set up their own account. And so there was some kickback, there as well. So that was good to start. But then structurally, as we built the company and we got a little more complex, we also had to figure out how do we streamline all of these accounts so that we can keep track of claims, we can keep track of, getting into them quickly, pulling owner reports and stuff like that. So we have internally created a one-page sheet that has all of the Airbnb account information, the login, the email, and all of that. And so that has been helpful. We also use things like Trello and some other, you know, information aggregate accounts that we can pull up an app on our phone. Everybody who needs it has access to it, and they can pull up the information about the owner, you know, anything about the house, anything about how to get in, how to get into the accounts if somebody needs to get into those. So that is, you know, as you scale, as you know best, it is super important to stay organized as you can, you know, if you're going to take that approach. But
Yeah. So let's talk more about like the pros and the cons. You mentioned some of the pros. Like number one is it will help you add more customers, right? Because like you're offering them the ability to, you know, to have access to their own account and use that to sell their asset in the future. The other pro is it's also, well, what you mentioned, you get the fees, the referral fees.
yeah,
Number three, it reduces your risk significantly, correct?
yes,
Because
yes,
because that's the biggest concern that people have, like managing everything in one account is, you know,
mhm,
God forbid if that account ever gets delisted because you know unwittingly did something wrong, something that that is against the Airbnb terms, then
yeah.
that's a major that's a major risk, right? So I think those I guess those three are the major pros, right?
Yeah, for sure. And I will say, you know, to that last one, you know, the fear of, hey, my account may be frozen or something else. We had one account, and a guest tried to cancel last minute, and they didn't have a good. If they have a good reason, if it's COVID, death in the family, or something, we usually give a full refund. We don't have a problem with that. But if it's, hey, I just don't like the place, or my mind changed, or I'm going somewhere else, well, you took up my weekend. I probably may, you know, high percentage, I may not get a last minute booking. And so we don't always give everything back. Well, this person was really frustrated. They left us a bad review. Airbnb sided with them and shut the account down for 5 days. Well,
Mm.
so a couple learnings there. One, we also have it on VRBO. We also have a direct booking site. And so when that got canceled and we were froze on Airbnb for 5 days, it was only isolated to that one account. The rest of the portfolio was doing just fine. There was no issues with it. Secondarily, we got a last minute booking on VRBO that actually took over the weekend and went into the next week. It was actually a better booking than the original booking. So the diversity of that and the isolation of just being able to kind of control, and not be exposed to, hey, if our whole account was, you know, 32 homes were on one account, we would have been shut down for 5 days on Airbnb, one hand tied behind our back, and now we only have VRBO and our own website, you know, kind of thing, to respond with, or to communicate
Mhm.
and try to get bookings. So
Yeah.
um, yeah, that was helpful.
Yeah, that could saves a lot of stress.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And you
Yeah.
know, here's the other thing. I think the fear of people doing multiple accounts, especially in the management model, is, you know, I'm doing all the work and I'm giving away, you know, kind of my intellectual property to them, which I totally get. And you know, we've even considered, do we put as part of our agreement, hey, if you end up selling this, we get X amount of whatever we've helped you grow, which is totally appropriate. I love that model. And but then there's the other side of, I take the approach that if I help an investor easily get involved with me and easily get out if they don't like what's happening, or the market changed, or their house needs to sell, or whatever it is, they remember that and they will come back to me. And it's happened probably half a dozen times where, for whatever reason, an investor's sold a house because he didn't like the area, or he was done, you know, with whatever they needed to pull those assets and put them somewhere else. They'd sell it, go put it into another house, and then they'd come back to us to have us run that house. And
Mhm.
oftentimes they've upgraded to a better house. And so, you know, that has happened as well. And so, you know, when you look at the mindset of going, I don't want to give away these assets, I guess where we play into is the relationship side of things. I want that long-term relationship because it takes a little while to, dance with an investor, right? It takes a little bit to, get to know them and understand them, and some are great and some are not so good. And, we have a clause in our hosting agreement as well that you can, either they can or we can get in or out of the contract within 30 days if we need to. Because if it's not working for either of us and it's not a win-win, we don't want to put anybody through some kind of turmoil. So
Yeah.
yeah,
And I bet the way that you set it up is it's very attractive for investors to start working with you. But also I imagine that you'll probably get a decent amount of referrals too.
we do. Yeah. In fact, so that's also kind of a fun thing for our company. We, especially since we've gone through the Legends X training, we have zeroed in. We used to do just about any kind of avatar. We'd do little townhouses, condos, all the way up to really big houses, and it was becoming complex. And so now that we're zeroed in, we now know exactly what we want to do and exactly what we don't want to do, which has been super empowering for us. And so we also have a coaching and consulting side of our business where we help people kind of learn and do around Atlanta what we do ourselves. And so when we have students come through our coaching classes, a lot of times they're overwhelmed. They don't know how to get started, but we oftentimes have homes that we can provide to them or investors that we can hook them up with, a hot lead because, hey, we're not interested in this house or doing this, but this would be great for your portfolio, the people you're passionate about serving. And so that really has been fun as well, to be able to jumpstart your own students with, providing them homes right out of the gate, just out of our own, funnel of people.
Yeah. What I really like about your model is like you're coming from a place of how can we add as much value as possible and invest in long-term relationships versus coming from a place of fear where it's like, oh, if I'm gonna manage this person's home, like I gotta like protect myself and like make sure that if that person leaves, that I'm left with something. So
Yeah.
I think that's great. I think that's probably attracting a lot of people into your business, right?
Yeah.
Because you're coming from that place, like people can tell.
Yeah. 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 And it's, it feels good too for people that work with us and for us, outside of the investment level of, hey, here's how we want to, we truly see it as a hospitality. We've had hospitality in our veins for 80, 90 years. My 96-year-old grandma just passed away, and we talked about at her celebration of life service how she has served people most of her life in various capacities. But we've really approached it, the real estate industry, you can certainly, you want to be profitable and you need to make money, but instead of going, I'm just looking at the dollars and cents, I want to look at how do I add that value component? How do I take care of people and how do I take care of investors? What is that balance? And, we are, as we grow our portfolio, constantly looking at, it adds complexity to try and serve everybody in the way they want to be served. And so you have to also balance out, well, what's most efficient for us as well. And so sometimes we may have to make those hard decisions, but as long as we can, we want to try to make it a win for everybody involved.
Yeah.
That's the goal.
Yeah. And I love that core value, relationship over revenue. Is that something that you already had in your business, or is something you developed through the Legends X course?
We developed it through Legends X. Yeah, we coming into the program, we were mulling over some core values that we had and wanted, but going through the course really helped us focus on getting that part of our business to the finish line, it really has driven what we do now going forward. It's just given us a much clearer vision of the people that we want to serve, the things that we want to do, and how to continue to refine it.
Sure. That's
Yeah.
awesome. So I want to talk a little bit about the cons, the disadvantages of having these multiple accounts. And first thing that comes to my mind is just the complexity, the management, right? If you have everything in one account, like pulling reports, and also like connecting. How do you connect to your PMS? Because you can't connect it through your co-hosting um, account, right? You have to connect all these
Yeah,
different accounts to your PMS. I imagine.
correct. Yeah. So we currently are using Guesty, and we are, all of those accounts are connected now. When we brought all of those accounts over to VRBO, those all we dumped into one account. So on VRBO, we dumped them all into one account and then connected that account. So that's been helpful on that side of things. But yeah, on with having that many, it was it is, there are definitely some cons. I would say, putting in a claim on Airbnb, a resolution claim or anything like that is difficult because you have to log into that account, put in the claim. You have to kind of monitor that email as they respond to you, and their support messages will come through. But if they're emailing us any kind of, hey, I need more documentation, I need something else, I need a receipt for this, we have to monitor those individual emails, which the more you get, the more, hopefully we don't do a lot of Airbnb claims, but they seem to come in waves, right? So, you don't have any for a while, and then you'll have 5 in one weekend because of, whatever situation. We just had a heat wave through Atlanta, so we had a bunch of refunds because of AC units that, they weren't keeping up. It just was a hard thing to keep up. So we had some refunds and we had some other things, but it wasn't terrible. But yeah, that would be one. The other is reports, like you mentioned. We do need to. It is a little tedious to go into each one, pull those reports, get them kind of combined with the VRBO reports, and then it definitely takes us a little more time. So.
Mhm. Yeah, and I imagine also, I mean, most of the management you can control through Guesty, through your PMS, right?
Right.
When it comes to like adding new different photos to the listings and whatnot. But there's
Yeah.
also, I think there's also some things that you actually have to log into the Airbnb account, um,
Mhm.
where you can like you can use different settings and just like how they have like these recommendations that pop up, right?
Right.
Let's like, hey, did
Yeah.
you describe what your TV looks like and things like that. So I imagine you still have to log into all the separate accounts every now and then to like
Yep.
put in those settings, correct?
Yeah, minimally, we're in to pull reports at least once a month, but we try to get in there at least one other time. If we do it twice a month, to just look for those recommendations, to look for, when they added the pet fee in Airbnb, we had to go into each account, kind of disconnect it from Guesty, put those in there, and then connect it again, which that's not hard, after you've done it a couple times. And we've certainly learned through Legends X about the ease of doing Loom videos and things like that, which is super helpful. And so, just creating a new process. How do we do that, and then how do we replicate it across the
Yeah.
board?
Yeah.
Is you know just part of the challenge.
And who manages that? Is that do you have a team member who supports you in that?
So right now I am managing the majority of it, just because that piece of it, because it's so complex.
Hmm.
But we are currently looking to hire a VA and a guest messaging person that will join our team, and then we'll probably have them kind of combine efforts in being able to manage aspects of that. Yeah.
Yeah, makes sense.
And I'm,
Um,
as too, as you add team members, they probably will do it better than me. They'll figure out other ways. Wow, why is he doing that? This seems clunky or backwards. Or so I'm excited, that they'll look at that and go, hey, Jason, here's A to Z process that we should enhance.
yeah.
And so I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, for sure. No, that we're experiencing that as well with our virtual assistant too, because like when we do things, like we don't have a lot of time. We're focused on other things, so we
Yeah.
just kind of, you
Mhm.
know, do something quickly or just do it, and then the virtual assistant actually has the time to really focus on it and think about like, hey, what's a better way to do this. So,
Yeah.
um, are there any other disadvantages of the setup that you're using?
I can't think of any. I think just like anything, no matter which direction you choose to go in this business, there's always going to be challenges and hurdles. And it's kind of like when an investor asks me, how do we mitigate, any issues at my house? And I usually tell them it's not that we're going to mitigate issues, it's how do we respond to them when they happen? Because when you have a volume of homes, it's inevitable something's going to happen, whether it's small or whether it's a larger occurrence. We've been very fortunate in 4.5 years to have maybe enough significant issues that we can count on one hand or less, that we've had to mitigate. But so as those challenges grow in your business, I do love the property management model, in terms of when we came through COVID. That was a huge win for us because
Mhm.
what we did was, instead of freaking out and going, I'm not making enough cash flow to take care of rental arbitrage payments or whatever else, we were not stressed by that. We were able to fill a lot of our houses with, we have a good number of our houses, especially around Metro Atlanta, that are corporate rentals as well. And so we would be able to fill them with corporate rentals or people, claims adjuster companies that we work with, that people had water, fire damage, whatever in their house. So we still, through the pandemic, had 70% occupancy when they shut down the state of Georgia for 6-8 weeks, which was phenomenal for us because we just thought, okay, all of our bookings are going away. What's going to happen? But we took a deep breath and we leaned in and just knew that, there's going to be pent up demand. Once people are at home, they're going to want to get out after this happens, no matter how long it happens. And sure enough, we all experienced, I think, worldwide, this surge last summer or the last 2 summers of guests doing that. So in the property management model, that we had a lot of friends in the rental arbitrage model, and even some owners that they had to sell some homes because they were struggling. But our investors, I told them, I said, look, I will even lower my rate, my compensation through that time, if we just get through this together. How do we get through this together? And so we worked at it as a team approach and not as a, well, you owe me this or I owe you this. And I think through the whole pandemic, we lost maybe one house. So
Oh wow, yeah,
that was a good achievement.
yeah. That's a big win for sure.
Yeah.
Um, awesome, man. Well, this was super interesting. Thank you so much for sharing all these insights. Really, yeah, really impressed with your model. You said you were at how many, like 32 right
32
now?
right now. Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah. And we have another 6 that we're working on right now.
yeah.
Yep. Yep.
And what's your what are your goals for like the next couple of years?
Yeah, yeah. So our goal would be to grow it to 100 units by the end of 2023. So we have, another 65 units or so that we're hoping to do, as we get through the next. We've done up to 50 at this point, but as we've changed the business and done some things, investors have sold off and whatever else. But we've done quite a few, and so we know with bringing on extra help and extra infrastructure, which we've learned through Legends X, and are grateful for you guys, you and Eric, and just helping us get our head around how do we get to the next plateau? How do we get to where we are looking to go? And so that's kind of the goal.
Yeah, well, that's awesome, man. And well, it sounds like you're gonna be a legend soon. So might see you in the mastermind at some point.
That'd be great.
Awesome, Jason. Thank you so much, man. Really appreciate your time. And to the listeners, thank you for listening. I hope this was helpful for all you guys out there. And we'll be back on Friday with another episode of Get Paid for Your Pad. So we'll see you then.